There are two games in particular that I've played consistently over the last 10 years. I started playing League of Legends in 2013, right when Aatrox released, and I started playing RuneScape back in 2009 or around 2007, back when house parties were actual house parties. Now, these games don't have that much in common as they are different genres. One is a MOBA and one is an MMO, but recently Riot has announced that they are releasing their own MMO based on the world of League of Legends. And we'll get into more of that in just a second, but all of the top MMOs right now are almost 10 to 20 years old. WoW coming out in 2004, OSRS 2001, Final Fantasy 14 is 10 years old, ESO 10 years old. All of these MMOs we're playing right now are a blast from the past. And over the past couple years, MMO players have been dying for a new good MMO to come out. You can see this from the huge popularity of things like New World and Ashes of Creation. Currently, a lot of players stick with the older games like old school RuneScape that bring lots of nostalgia, but also way better options than whatever else is currently being presented in the last couple years. But if Riot can make the best MMO ever made based off of the League of Legends universe, they will have so much nostalgia from all of the newer generations that have been playing League of Legends for over 10 years like myself. Not only this, Riot probably has the biggest influence out there of any of these game developers for an MMO. I mean, they have spread out into pop culture. They have Arcane on Netflix, which has brought in a huge audience that doesn't even probably play the game. And honestly, as time goes on, I think it's harder and harder for newer generations or just people to get into older games like old school RuneScape anyways, especially if they never played it back in the day. Literally everyone I game with plays League of Legends, and a lot of them actually grew up playing old school RuneScape as well. I currently have a group Iron Man with some of them right now, but sometimes I think about the huge potential of this new Riot MMO just killing off games like RuneScape that I currently love with the universe they have built. I mean, they have so much potential to make the greatest MMO ever made. And like I said, I can't help but wonder if it comes out that great, it may kill off games like old school RuneScape. And after all, an MMO of all games needs to have a big player base. And if enough players leave, the universe will feel empty, the worlds will feel empty, and that could potentially kill off some of these older games. And I probably wouldn't be worried about any of this if this was literally any other company than Riot Games. Because with all of their previous releases and games, especially with all the new games they produced in the last couple of years, they've all been super S-tier experiences for me. I mean, I grew up also getting into some of the Blizzard games. I wasn't into WoW when I was younger, but I got into WoW later on. And then it just felt like over the last 10 years or so, Blizzard has literally just gone out of their way to like make me not want to play their games. I quit playing WoW. I got into Hearthstone, one of my favorite card games ever. Eventually quit that. Now I play League's card game, which is way better in my opinion. I played some Overwatch. I mean, you see what they did that game recently. And then I even got into Diablo for the first time ever with Diablo 4. And they've already killed that for me as well. So yeah, if anyone could do it, make the greatest MMO of all time, I think it's going to be Riot Games. But we'll have to see. Now, there are three things I think OSRS does better than any other MMO. And if a new MMO were to kill off my favorite MMO of all time, I would hope it would at least have some inspiration from these top three things that I think old school RuneScape does best. The first thing that I think old school does better than any other MMO is listening to their community. They have multiple polls and stuff that the community votes on for upcoming updates and stuff. I mean, it wasn't always this way, but they learned from a huge lesson when they tried to put out an awful update and half of their player base quit. And then they started back, went back on that, made old school, and started from scratch doing exactly what their player base actually wanted. I think this in particular is one of the areas Riot could struggle with making an MMO, because a lot of big companies have a lot of trouble with listening to their communities and like building what their community actually wants instead of doing what they want because it sounds good to like big investors and stuff like that. Second thing that I think old school does amazing is horizontal progression. And what I mean by that is previous content doesn't just become irrelevant, and huge achievements like boss drops stay viable and important items as you continue to play. In a game like World of Warcraft, you level to 60 and then everything from that expansion and backwards is now irrelevant. And now you wait for the new expansion to basically play the game entirely over again. In old school, a lot of the regions are still viable as you go to different places doing like Slayer tasks, or you revisit old content a lot. And then also you revisit old bosses a lot as you go for different items. And these items that the bosses drop usually don't just get replaced like every level or something like that. You use them in the future. They may have a certain niche uses, or they may be the best in slot item, or the second best in slot item, or things like that. The items stay viable and valuable. And the third and last thing that I think old school RuneScape does amazing is Iron Man mode. When you're playing Iron Man mode, everything just feels so much more accomplishing and just feels way more amazing. In games like this, MMOs, it's hard to monetize them correctly, as things like RuneScape bonds or WoW tokens devalue the player experience, since players can just buy gold essentially. And if you know someone can just buy the gold that took you hundreds of hours to earn, that really just ruins your experience or your motivation to play. And something like Iron Man mode, where you can't trade with other players, you have to get everything yourself. I think this really solves this and makes it very enjoyable to play, especially with how old school RuneScape works. And there's still tons of community interaction even if you're only playing by yourself in an Iron Man mode. I mean, you see another Iron Man with all this just sick gear that you know they had to grind super hard for. You just instantly have respect for that player and you're like, whoa bro. And then also at the same time, there's new game modes like Group Iron Man, where you can go in with a team of people, up to 5 people, and you can have a similar experience where it's more social. I'm really not sure what the future holds. Do you guys think Riot will make the greatest MMO of all time? And will it kill our current MMOs? Well, at least we have 5 years of waiting until it comes out, right?